What's up, Mosaic? How you guys doing tonight? Good to see you guys. We're gonna sing. Hope you guys sing with us. Against all hope, I will believe. Through edgy wars, you fight for peace. And you have always made a way about the beauty you create. And I know your love is strong enough to meet me where I am. And I know you keep your promises. In confidence I stand. And I know your love is infinite. It covers where I've been. And I know I can be confident, confident. Come on, church! And hallelujah, you will never let me down. Hallelujah, you will never let me down. Your hope runs through my veins. Your love, it paves the way. Hallelujah, and hallelujah. Let's sing what lies ahead. What lies ahead, I cannot see. I know your voice will carry me, and nothing can pull me from your hand. No power against your own will stand. Let's sing it, I know. And I know your love is strong enough to meet me where I am. And I know you keep your promises. In confidence I stand. And I know your love is infinite. It covers where I've been. And I know I can be confident, confident. Here we go. Hallelujah, you will never let me down. Hallelujah, you will never let me down. Your hope runs through my veins. Your love, it paves the way. more time. And hallelujah, you will never let me down. Hallelujah, come on. You will never let me down. Your hope runs through my veins. Your love, it bears away. And hallelujah, and hallelujah. One more time, come on. Hallelujah, and hallelujah. And your hope runs through my veins. Your love, it bears away. And hallelujah, and hallelujah.
My forever in your heart, your steps I will follow. I put my trust in who you are, your voice is my arrow. And I will walk into the dark to see how the light breaks through. I will run into your arms. I will hold on to you. I will lift my eyes to things unseen, to the promise in your victory, and I will build my life on the mystery where you call me, and I will go into the unknown.
I can't be shaken with your words and hidden in my heart. I can't contain what I have seen, and light rising from the dark. And I will lift my eyes to things unseen, to the promise in your victory, and I will build my life on the mystery where you call me, and I will go to the unknown.
Greater than I could ever dream, further than I could ever see. Who can compare to the greatest wonder? Higher than I could ever reach, you're stronger than I could ever be, and nothing compares to how you love me. Greater than I could ever dream, further than I could ever see. Who can compare to the greatest wonder? Higher than I could ever reach, stronger than I could ever be. Nothing compares to how you love. Lift your hands, come on!
Greater than I
Sing it out
could
tonight.
ever dream.
Further than you can ever see. Who can compare?
Who can compare to the greatest one?
He's higher
Higher than I,
and stronger.
stronger than I.
And nothing compares to how you love me. Greater than I could ever dream. Further than I could ever say. Who can compare to the greatest wonder? Higher than I could ever reach. Stronger than I could ever be. Nothing compares to how you love. I will lift my eyes to things unseen, to the promise and your victory, and I will build my life on the mystery of where you call me, and I will go, and I will build my life on the mystery of where you call me, and I will go into the
Welcome to Mosaic.
We're so glad that you're here today. The buckets are probably being passed right now, but just in case you missed it, here's a few ways to give. You can text Mosaic to 77977. You can give online at mosaic.org/give, or you can give through the Mosaic app.
There's always something new and exciting happening at Mosaic, and we want you to know about it. Here's how to get connected. You can text Mosaic to 41411. Then follow us on Instagram. The handles are on the screen. And the best way to get connected is to meet at the Next Step area after the gathering.
Easter is just 2 weeks away.
We have gatherings all across the city, which means we've created plenty of space for you to invite all your friends.
If you need more information, go to mosaic.org/Easter. It's gonna be amazing. We can't wait to see you.
This Thursday, March 22nd, we are having a special Easter team rally. If you want to serve, join on a team, we would love to see you at Mosaic Hollywood, 8 p.m. See you there.
See you there.
See you there.
And you.
You with the, what is that, black sweatshirt?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, we see you, bro. 8 p.m.
West Side, what's up? Crews are happening. Thursdays at 7:30. Visit mosaic.org/crew to find a crew near you.
We are so excited to announce that next Sunday, March 25th at 7 p.m., Mosaic Venice will be having its very first Sunday gathering. If you live on the West Side, we'll see you there.
Mosaic, we love you.
Have the best week ever.
You had to jump for that.
I'm only this tall.
I've been married 32 years to the same beautiful, incredible woman named Kim. And one of the things you learn after 30 plus years is that there are certain environments that you need to avoid. Certain conversations you need to not have. And that it's in those small things where big problems can arise. For me and Kim, it's going out to eat. We have the same conversation every single time. My wife loves it when I choose where we go eat. She does. She just insists on it. We'll be driving and she'll say, honey, where do you want to eat? And I'll say, honey, it doesn't matter, anywhere you want to eat. She goes, no. Today I want you to choose. You just choose where you want to eat. And I said, no, it's okay, honey. I'm more varied than you. I like all kinds of foods, and you're a little more selective, so you choose where we're going to eat. She goes, no, I'm not going to choose. Tonight it's your turn. You get to choose. And so I'll say, well, then I want sushi. She goes, you know I don't like sushi. And I said, I know you don't like sushi, but you asked me what I wanted, and I want sushi. She goes, well, I'm not going to get sushi. If you want sushi, you can go by yourself. I said, all right, then just tell me what you want, and we'll go eat what you want. She says, no, I'm not picking. I'm not choosing. It's up to you. So then I'll say, okay, well, then I want Indian food. She goes, you know I don't like Indian food. And I said, well, sometimes you do. She goes, no, I don't want Indian food. And I said, well, you asked me to choose, and I want Indian food. She goes, I don't want Indian food. I said, okay, honey, then just tell me what you want, and then we'll go get what you want. She goes, no, I'm not choosing. I want to eat wherever you want to eat. I said, but honey, I already chose sushi, and I chose India, and then you're not saying yes. She goes, well, if you want to be really stubborn about it, we won't go eat at all. I said, just tell me what you want. She goes, no, you pick. So I choose 3 or 4 more times, and she'll say, no, I don't really feel like that tonight. I don't want that. I said, honey, just tell me what you want. She goes, no, I want you to choose. You see, I figured this out. She doesn't want what I want, and she doesn't want what she wants. She wants me to want what she wants, so that when I choose what I want, it's what she wants. Have you ever asked God, what do you want me to do? See, I think all of us get the idea that we're all supposed to ask God, what do you want me to do? But would it absolutely turn your life upside down if God stopped the conversation and looked at you and said, what do you want me to do? See, I think what happens so oftentimes is that we get confused about our relationship with God, and we think that the relationship is only one-sided because he's God. Because after all, since he's God, the relationship can be defined any way he wants it to be defined. The conversation that we're going to have with God is whatever conversation he wants to have. But is it possible that we've misjudged God's generosity? That we have misunderstood how much pleasure God finds in asking us, what do you want me to do? There is a moment in the life of Jesus in Matthew chapter 20 when we hear this specific conversation. Beginning of verse 29, it says, as Jesus and his disciples were leaving Jericho, a large crowd followed him. 2 blind men were sitting by the roadside, and when they heard that Jesus was going by, they shouted, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. The crowd rebuked them and told them to be quiet, but they shouted all the louder, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. Jesus stopped and called them. What do you want me to do for you? He asked. I know I'm not supposed to say this, but that's the stupidest question I've ever heard. I mean, have you ever had people ask you stupid questions? I hate stupid questions. And when I was reading this, I thought, Jesus, that's a stupid question. And then when I heard myself think that, I thought, don't say that out loud because he's listening. But frankly, it's a stupid question. If 2 blind guys are screaming their guts out saying, Lord, have mercy on us, I think you kind of know what they want you to do for them. I mean, after all, Jesus is God. He should already know. But even if he wasn't God, He could look at two blind guys and say, I think I know what you want. I mean, what do you think they're going to say? Jesus, we're blind. We're so glad you're looking our way. I heard you're a carpenter. Would you make me a cane? It'd just be so incredible if you could just make me a artisan cane with your own kind of detail to it. And just sign it JC. It would just be so dope to be the blind guy walking with a cane made by God. And what do you expect a blind man to ask? What do you want me to do for you? Lord, they answered, we want our sight. Jesus had compassion on them and touched their eyes. Immediately they received their sight and followed him. And as I read this, I had to begin to ask myself, why in the world would Jesus ask the question that was so obvious? Why would he step into this moment with these two men who were so desperate that they were willing to receive the disdain of the crowds and the humiliation of their desperation in the slight hope that Jesus might actually look their way and answer their request? Why would Jesus prolong the benefit of this moment by asking them, what do you want me to do for you? See, I've become convinced that though God wants us to ask him, what do you want me to do? I am absolutely convinced that God is waiting for us to ask him, Lord, this is what I want you to do for me. And I'm convinced that God is asking us here in this room, what do you want me to do for you that you cannot do for yourself, that no one else can do for you? What do you want me to do for you that will be proof that I am God? What do you want me to do for you that will declare to the world that I am here? What do you want me to do? See, if you want God to move in your life the way that God wants to move in your life, you have to know what you want. See, I think a lot of times we get mad at God because God doesn't seem to come through in our lives. But the reason he doesn't seem to come through in our lives is because we are so unclear of what we want that even if God gave us what we wanted, we wouldn't know that's what we wanted. I think what's happened to so many of us is that we've been walking blind and have become convinced that God would never give us sight. So we actually lowered our expectations. So when God asks us, what do you want me to do for you? We go, well, you know, God, I don't want to put you out. I know you're really busy. You're trying to deal with 7 billion people, so I don't want to stretch you or press you. See, I think a lot of us are like blind men who are saying to Jesus, would you carve me out a cane so I could stumble through life a little better? Because we don't believe he would give us sight. I didn't grow up in church. I didn't have faith. I didn't know who God was. I was a 100% pure pagan. I had never seen a Bible in my life. And when I came to faith in Jesus, they handed me a Bible. It was a Thompson Chain Reference King James Bible. I didn't understand a word. I had never read Shakespeare. And I went right back to college after I came to faith in Jesus, so they didn't have time to pour things into me. So they had to do the speed version. They handed me the Bible. They said, read it, believe it, obey it. They said, pray. That means talk to God, and God's going to talk to you. Tell everyone you can about Jesus. Get in community and go change the world. And then I went back to college and I started opening up that book and reading what it said and tried to apply all the stuff in there. And you ever notice that when a person's brand new in their faith, they don't know enough to get it right? So they get it right. I remember I was a brand new follower of Christ. And I started going to everything. I went to the Baptist group and the Pentecostal group and the Catholic group and the non-denominational group that was a really strong denomination. And I went to all these different groups. And I got involved in all of them because I didn't know anything about Jesus. So I'm going to learn everything I could. And then there was this girl named Lynn, and she was the leader of one of the communities. She was the worship leader. And I would borrow her guitar. And I would learn all these different songs. I thought, this is so cool to be a part of this new community. And one day she came up to me and she said, Erwin, you don't know about my life before I came here. But I used to live with this guy named Kenny. And I was a drug addict. And I was an alcoholic, and I had a different life. And she said, I just don't feel God in my life anymore. I couldn't even imagine this because it was all so new for me. Jesus was so alive and so real in my life that I couldn't imagine a person ever tasting of the goodness of God and walking away from it. And when she said, I just don't feel God in my life anymore, she said, I called Kenny, he's coming back to get me, I'm leaving college. And I was just heartbroken. And then I said, well, what do you mean you don't feel God? She goes, I just don't feel God's love anymore. Now, I know now I should have told her, that's why Jesus died. The cross is God's proof to you that he loves you. I know the answers now, but I didn't know the answers then. I was brand new. I looked at her and I said, if there's anything God could do to prove his love for you, I know he would do it. Then she looked at me and she said, okay, then I want it to snow. I thought, see, this is why I can't communicate with women. Because there's just no way I could have predicted that. And I didn't know what to say. And I heard this voice say, God is gonna make it snow. Then I realized it was my voice. And when I heard myself say it, I got really anxious. And I didn't know how this whole thing worked. And I just looked at her and said, God's gonna make it snow for you. And I thought, I need a little time. God needs a little time. So I said, within 24 hours. I meant to say he's gonna need more than 24 hours, but I was really, really confused. And when I finished that statement, I didn't really have anything else to say, so I left. And I went back to my room, and I closed my door, and I turned off my lights, and I pulled down my shades, and I fell on my face on the floor, and I said, God, we're in a mess. I'm not really sure where that came from. I don't know if it was me. I don't know if it was you. If it wasn't you, could you sort of adopt the idea? It's kind of a cool one. And I remember just crying out to God, saying, God, I don't know. I'm so new at this. I kind of like blurted it out. I messed up, God. But I knew what I wanted. God, I need snow right now. I know there's no forecast for snow. I know there's no expectation of snow. God, I need snow because I told this person that you loved her and it needs the snow. Within 24 hours, by the way, if you're not too busy. And I fell on my face and I fell asleep. I was still learning the prayer thing, but I consider all unconscious efforts of prayer legitimate. And a couple hours later, my roommate, Mark, came into the room. And he said, hey, have you been outside? And when he said that, I knew he knew. I didn't tell anyone. And in fact, I didn't want her to tell anyone. But she went all over campus telling people, God's gonna make it snow for me because he loves me. God's gonna make it snow for me because he loves me. And I thought, man, I wish I'd read the Gospel of Mark, but I hadn't made it to the Gospel of Mark. I'd only read the Gospel of John. Because in the Gospel of Mark, Jesus says, go and tell no one. And when he said that to me, I felt all this anxiety inside of me because my roommate knew me the year before when I was an atheist, agnostic, mystic, and now he knew me as a follower of Jesus. He was watching this whole thing. He goes, have you been outside? And I said, no, not really. Because you probably should look outside. Then he left. And I walked over to the window and I pulled up that shade. And all I can tell you is that there was snow everywhere. That entire campus was packed with snow. And I ran out of my room, down those stairs, out of that dorm. I knew the whole time it was gonna snow. I ran across that campus and found that girl making angel's wings in the snow. And by the way, she didn't go back with her boyfriend. But in that moment, I realized that something had happened inside of me. I had a conversation with God that changed my entire view of reality. And then I went to seminary. And they told me God doesn't work like that. And I said, it's too late. He already has. And I look at my life and I realize that so oftentimes I have lived with less faith when I have known more, and I had more faith when I knew less. I didn't know not to ask God for big things. I didn't know that it would be too brazen or arrogant to say to God, God, I need you to act in my life in impossible ways. And then we get mature. We grow up. We become reasonable. And we stop asking God for big things. See, I think some of us do not ask God for big things because we're afraid that we're going to hurt God's reputation. Because if we ask for big things, he will not come through, and we don't want to embarrass God. I think a lot of us are trying to protect God's reputation by praying small prayers and asking small things. And I actually think that so many of us are actually suffocating God by trying to squeeze into a life that's so small, to dreams that are so small. I think God is waiting to break out of your small life and your small dreams and your small ask and to pull you up into his big dreams and his big ask. Do you know what you want? Is there a want inside of your soul that's burning inside of you? Is there an ask that you've dared to step into the presence of God and say, God, this is the dream inside of my soul. This is what must happen inside of me. It's burning in me. Now, I know the problem. We ask for things we shouldn't ask for. And we want things we shouldn't want. But I love what it says in Psalm 37:4. I like the Good News version. It says, seek your happiness in the Lord, and he will give you your heart's desire. Do you hear what he's saying? Delight in the Lord, enjoy God, love God. And then he will give you your heart's desire. When you fall in love with God, he places a desire within your soul. You give God your heart, and he will put a passion in your heart that he wants to fulfill. So delight in the Lord, and then he will give you the desires of your heart. Now, James says it like this. In chapter 4, verses 2 and 3, you do not have because you do not ask God. We're going to come back to that. Because the next part says, when you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives so that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. So say, here's the problem. When you ask, you're asking with the wrong motives. You're asking for the wrong things. You have the wrong want. He says, delight yourself in the Lord, and then he'll give you the desires of your heart. So you have to first deal with the heart. But we stop there. We go, well, I'm never going to have pure motives. I'm never going to get this thing quite right. But we keep skipping the first part. You see, the motivation being a problem is the secondary cause of not receiving from God everything he wants for us. But the primary problem, he says, is you do not have because you do not ask. And you do not ask because you don't know what you want. You know, when I was in college, right after that, I transferred to a different university. I was playing soccer and I got injured. And my roommate built a loft in our dorm room so that we could have the whole dorm room as our living room. And we slept up almost like on the second floor. And after one of the matches, I had hurt my knee so badly, I was just in excruciating pain. I kept rolling and rolling all night long. And in the middle of the night, sound asleep, I rolled so hard, I rolled out of that loft and fell on top of an Army surplus locker. Let me tell you, the military makes those things so well. And the corner of that locker had metal, and it hit my elbow just right and broke the radial head of my elbow. And when I lay there on the ground in agonizing pain, it was my good fortune to have a roommate whose major was sports medicine. And he never moved. After a couple of minutes of me laying on the ground groaning, he said, "Did you drop something? Or is that you?" I said, "It's me, it's me." He goes, "Yeah, I was afraid of that." So I need to go to the hospital. He said, "Man, it's kind of late. I'll take you in the morning." And I said, "Well, could you get me like some aspirin?" And he goes, "No, you'll be okay." So I laid there all night in agonizing pain with cold sweats, chills, in shock. In the morning, I dragged myself to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, my arm was stuck like this. And when they measured my mobility, I had 0, 0, 0, 0 mobility. And here I was, a brand new follower of Jesus, and I was a musician at the time, and everything I did that was really a public expression of my faith was musical and festivals and different cafes and restaurants and streets. And I thought, God, why would you let this happen to me? God, why would you allow this to happen? I'm only 20 years old, and I'm going to be a cripple the rest of my life. And I went every day to rehab, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And they said, whatever mobility you get in the first few days, it's all you're going to have. And the arthritis is going to set in so badly, it's going to be a lifelong journey for you. And then I sat down on a sofa, and I got a phone call. The phone rang, and it was this festival coming from Canada that heard about me, and they said, "We'd like for you to perform in our festival." And they said, and I said, "When is it?" They said, "Next month." I said, "I'll be there. I'll do it." Now, I didn't know how I was going to be there or how I was going to do it. I just didn't want to turn it down, so I said, "Yes, I'm in." And I sat down, and I put the guitar on my lap, and I remember praying. I said, "God, I just want to do this for you. I just want to do this so that I can express who you are." I said, "So Jesus, would you move my arm from where it's stuck to the strings of the guitar so that at least I could play the guitar and continue doing this for you to reach others?" And I can't explain it to you, but in that moment, my arm moved from where it was to the strings instantly. And when that happened, I had this overwhelming thought. That was the stupidest prayer I've ever prayed in my entire life. I mean, why would I pray, "Jesus, heal me a little bit"? Could you heal one eye so I could always walk to the right, clearly? And when it moved to the strings, I realized, you're an idiot. If God was willing to heal your arm to move just a few inches, he was ready to heal your arm completely. But you were willing to settle for less, so God gave you the less you were willing to settle for. And it hit me, I need to know what I want. Because I need to be careful that I'm praying prayers so small that I'm holding God back from being great in my life. Now, the rest of it didn't come easy. But by the next Monday, when I went back to physical therapy at the medical center at the University of North Carolina, they said, "All right, let's check your range of motion." And I said, "You want me to move it like this or like this? How do you want me to move my arm?" They said, "How in the world did that happen?" And because I was so new in my faith, I told them. There's some of you here, you prayed prayers and nothing ever happened. You've had huge dreams that never came into fruition. You've taken bold steps. You've had moments of great faith. But your faith is now buried under the rubble of failure and disappointment. There's some of you that you've just kept paring your ask down. And what you've done in your own heart is you've made God smaller and smaller and smaller. And I want you to know the reason Jesus spoke to those two blind men is that he was ready to give them sight. But he needed to call out of them that want, that desire, that ask. I think some of us need to move to that place of desperation where we've taken such huge steps of faith, where we've acted with all the courage we can muster. We stepped beyond the line of what is possible and said, God, I'm going to step into the impossible, and I'm going to ask you to do great things. I want you to prove yourself in my life. And don't be surprised if you fail, because God does have a knack for the dramatic. Because sometimes we want God to act in our lives while we're succeeding. And God's like, no, just got to fall a little further. No, not deep enough. No, not terrifying enough. No, you thought it was just a little hill, but it's a cliff. I want you flying off the mountain so you can realize that you can fly. I want you to see what I can do in your life. If you don't know what you want, don't expect God to give it to you. If you don't know the person you want to become, you're going to stay the same person you are. If you don't know the life that you want, you're going to live some other life. Let me ask you, are you living the life that you want or the life that you have? Are you sitting around wondering why you have this life right now? Are you sitting around watching other people's lives saying, why does God work in their lives and not in mine? And we think so oftentimes it's because that person is more talented, or they're more gifted, or they're more intelligent. But I want you to see that Jesus moved in two blind men. And I want you to notice also that the crowds were not for them. They were rebuked and they were told to be silent, but they refused to be silent. They shouted even louder. Let me tell you something. You start dreaming big dreams, you start living a big life, you start asking God the big ask, and you're not going to have a lot of cheerleaders. You're going to have a lot of people telling you, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to ask God to do such great things in your life? Who do you think you are to ask God to be so big in your life? Who do you think you are? You can say, I'm a blind man and I need to see, and Jesus has just passed by and looked at me. There's this beautiful passage that expands this in 2 Kings chapter 4. Beginning in verse 1. It says, the wife of a man from the company of the prophets cried out to Elisha, your servant, my husband, is dead. And you know that he revered the Lord. But now his creditor is coming to take my two boys as his slaves. Elisha replied to her, how can I help you? Well, she just told him. How can I help you? I just told you, my husband's dead. My creditors are coming. And my two boys are going to become slaves. How can you help me? Elijah goes on to say, tell me, what do you have in your house? Your servant has nothing there at all, she said, except a small jar of olive oil. Elisha said, go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil into all the jars, and as each is filled, put it to one side. She left him and shut the door behind her and her sons. They brought the jars to her, and she kept pouring. When all the jars were full, she said to her son, bring me another one. But he replied, there's not a jar left. Then the oil stopped flowing. She went and told the man of God, and he said, go sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left. It's kind of a strange story, isn't it? See, I love this moment because it parallels Jesus talking to these two blind men. What do you want me to do for you? Ask me. What do you want? Just ask me. Take the chance. Step out in faith. Ignore the crowds. Ignore the criticism. Ignore the haters. Just stand up and ask me for what you want me to do for you. And in this moment, this woman says to Elisha, I know you're the man of God. I know God is with you, and I need your help. And Elisha says, what do you have? She goes, I don't have anything. I think that's what a lot of us say to God. God says, give me everything you have. I don't have anything, God. But she goes, well, I got this little jar with just a little bit of oil. He goes, perfect. God can work with that. But I want you to go, and I want you to get all the empty jars your neighbors have. So I want you to go get all the jars that have no value to all of your neighbors, and I want you to bring them, and he gives her this one little note. Get as many as you can. Because Elisha understands the generosity of God. He knows exactly what God's going to do. And he doesn't want her to underestimate how good God will be to her. So she gets all the jars, the sons get the jars, then she closes the door and it begins, and she starts pouring oil into all the empty jars, one after another, after another, after another. And now she sees what's going on. Now she understands. Now she gets it. God is a generous God. God wants to do more than you could ever ask or imagine. And then finally, when she got to the last jar, she said to her son, give me another jar. Now she has enough faith, but the problem is that she's missed the opportunity to receive more than she received. And her son said, that's all we have, that's all the jars we have, we don't have any left. And then the oil stopped flowing. When I read that passage, I started thinking about Pastor Brian and Bobby in Hillsong. See, I think a lot of us look at Hillsong and think, man, they have so many full jars. It's just not fair. They got a full jar in London and a full jar in Sydney. They got a full jar in New York and LA and in Paris and Kiev. Everywhere they go, they have a full jar. But I think God sees it from the other vantage point. See, I think Pastor Bobby and Brian have come and brought God the empty jars and said, God, we don't have much. We just got a little oil, but we're going to bring you every empty jar that we have. And they've taken that jar and they placed it in cities all over the world, and God has filled that jar because they had enough faith in who God would be to them. And I've been listening to the conversations. I listened to Pastor Phil Dooley from Cape Town say, we're not thinking about church growth. We're thinking about transforming a nation. I said, of course he is. Of course they are. I listened to Pastor Chris Mendez from Buenos Aires. And he told my boys from LA, he said, they gave me a city, but I'm going to give them a continent. And I want you to know something too. 25 years ago, I put clocks on my wall and I began praying for certain cities in the world. 25 years ago, I put Los Angeles and New York and London and Paris and Shanghai and Buenos Aires and the Rhine-Ruhr region of Germany, and I said, God, transform those cities. I don't get it when churches get angry when great churches like Hillsong come to their cities. I want you to know, Ben Houston, you're the answer to my prayers. I've been praying for you for 25 years, boy. I sat down with a sheet of paper and I said, Jesus, would you ignite a movement in Los Angeles where 1,000 churches would be alive and vibrant and transforming our city? We get worried about one church coming into our city. I had pastors come to me and said, Hillsong's coming, what do we do? I said, get better. Because if you're satisfied asking God for so little, then get out of the way for the people who have the guts and the courage to ask God for more. And then there's New York. And Carl Lentz and Joel Houston. Maybe 10 years ago, our lives just got really tough. I didn't grow up in the church, and I just didn't know how mean people could be. I'm just being honest with you. And websites went up everywhere that just said such horrific things about me and our community. And there was even a group of Christians who created a website with an hourglass of the moment they were going to assassinate me. And on that day, my son, who was a teenager, decided that if Christians wanted to kill his dad, that he was tapping out. And he tapped out of the church, he tapped out of God, he tapped out of faith. And I lost my son. And it broke my heart. So I walked away from all the public ministry that I was involved in. I just stayed in our local church, Mosaic. And I created a company, and I went to the world of fashion and film and brought my son to work with me just so he could be close. And then he went to New York. He was walking into a nightclub one night, and the doorman went to Hillsong. Of course he did. And he recognized my son, and he said, "McManus, you're going to church with me tomorrow." And he said, "There's no way I'm going to church tomorrow." He's very colorful. He goes, "Oh, no, you are." And there was like a pretty girl involved. So she went, and he went. And the first time he went to Hillsong, New York, he heard Ben Houston speak. And then he went again, and he heard Pastor Carl speak. And then Pastor Carl grabbed my son and pulled him close. And I remember the day my son sent me a text that said, "Dad, if we make bags and make films but don't take Jesus to the world, we've accomplished nothing." And I thought, who stole my son's phone? And let me tell you, sometimes when we talk about asking God, we talk about big things, big accomplishments, the stuff that creates the applause of others. See, I knew what I wanted. I wanted my son back. I said, "God, this is what I want. I don't care about any other prayer I've ever prayed. If you don't answer this prayer, all those other prayers lie empty in my soul." So I know what I want. I want you, Jesus, to find some way to reclaim my son so that he would discover the life that you created him to live. And I want you to know today that Erwin McManus is sitting right over here. And I want you to know that you are the answer to our prayers, because we ask God for big things, because we believe that he was a good God, because we knew he was a generous God. He said, "I know what I want. I need you, Jesus, to do what I cannot do, what no one can do, what only you can do." So I want to ask you today, are you done having small dreams? Are you sick of living a small life? Are you done asking the small ask? Do you know? Do you know? Do you know what you want?